Hi, this is Mike again. Today I wanted to talk to you about one of the 7 different homeschooling options out there. I am going to talk to you about one of the different methods and not any specific curriculum you might use. In order to begin your journey in homeschooling, you first need to make a decision to withdraw your kids from the public school system. Next, you need to figure out who will serve as the teacher for your kids. Will one of the parents be the primary teacher, will one of the grandparents be the teacher, or will you hire someone to teach your kids? Or will you join with other parents and share teaching responsibility? The next decision you have is to determine what type of teaching method you want to employ. That is where this video comes into play. We have attempted to identify different teaching methods. Some are Christian-based, and some are not. We recommend using a Christian-based method in order to ground your kids in God's Word and correct some of the indoctrination that your child may have experienced in public school. You can use the Christian curriculum in any of these different methods of teaching, and we will discuss the different curriculum in upcoming videos on the homeschooling topic. One of the key advantages of homeschooling is also among its biggest challenges, which is the various options that are available. Homeschooling is roughly as old as humanity, but according to the Coalition for Responsible Home Education, the modern homeschooling movement can trace its roots to John Holt's writing on unschooling back in the 1970s. Later came the Christian homeschool movement in the 80s and 90s. By 1993, homeschooling was legalized in all 50 states. With the swelling ranks of homeschools came an influx of different options. Homeschooling effectively set off an earthquake in the educational world. It triggered flooding in the market of school choices, with a veritable tsunami of methodologies, curricula, publishers, projects, and whatnot. Today, newcomers and veterans alike may find the sea of options overwhelming. To help you narrow down the search, we offer an overview of the leading homeschool styles. As you hear about these summaries, think about what sounds most appealing to you and what would best suit your needs. For each homeschooling teaching method, we have included resource links. Hopefully, this gives you a better idea of how you want to structure your homeschool environment. Once you figure out the method or methods you wish to employ, you can better identify the curriculum that you will use. Homeschooling can be as traditional as school-at-home programs where students study the same stuff at home as do their peers at the local school. Or homeschooling can be as radical as unschooling education where the lessons are student-directed explorations devoid of homework and tests. We hope this rundown helps you weigh your options and find the homeschool method that best suits you and your kids. We will be presenting 7 main approaches to homeschooling. For each method, we will identify benefits and drawbacks. Listen closely to each method so you can decide which one or ones you wish to employ. The 7 methods we will be discussing are Classical, Charlotte Mason, Montessori, Unschooling, School at Home, Unit Studies, and last Eclectic Education Method. In the next few minutes, we will introduce first, the Montessori Method with its considerations of the benefits and drawbacks. Following is a brief sample assessment describing the general personality best suited for the Montessori Method. If that method really appeals to you, and it looks like it fits your personality, then you can dig deeper by using the resource lists, which link to pertinent teaching guides, curricula, and homeschooling networks that we will provide with the video. Bear in mind, there is considerable overlap between many of these educational models. This means that there is plenty of room, if needed, to share and borrow ideas between styles. Homeschool teachers typically mix methods and materials liberally. But to avoid any unsavory creations, it's probably best to get a good working knowledge of your teaching materials and methods before splicing them with others. Now let's discuss more the Montessori Method, its considerations, benefits, and drawbacks. Montessori Method. Next we will discuss the Montessori Method. Coined by early 20th century Italian physician and educator, Maria Montessori, born in 1870 and died in 1952, this method grew out of her psychology work with special needs children. This method is a humanistic student-based approach utilizing free movement, large unstructured time blocks, up to 3 hours, multi-grade classes, and interest-based and individualized learning plans. Teachers instruct only indirectly, using lots of manipulatives, tactile objects like tools and toys, and by giving the student a range of options from which to choose. For more information see Montessori.edu and American Montessori Society. This method is perhaps the most questionable inclusion in this list, not because of its effectiveness. This method is well proven as a child-friendly humanistic educational model. The problem is that Montessori schooling is often overlooked as a homeschool method. Montessori schools often incorporate lots of furniture, constructs, and tactiles, to make their classrooms inventive playgrounds for young learners. Ironically, in Maria Montessori's own journals, she describes a planned classroom which in many ways mirrors a normal working home. In this way, The Montessori method is tailor-fit for homeschooling. Nevertheless, many articles listing the different homeschool methods leave out Montessori entirely. Montessori, nevertheless, merits inclusion as a child-centered model for young learners, even if it has not reached the level of popularity as other homeschool models. It is primarily for elementary students. Montessori method incorporates the findings of early child psychology and thus is readily adapted for young learners, who need to touch, move, and play in the course of their learning. It is special needs friendly. Montessori method was originally implemented in treating learning disabled and mentally handicapped children. Montessori found it so effective that she replicated the model for other students as well. It is genius-friendly. Most every parent thinks their child is a genius, but the Montessori method enables those students who really are extraordinary in their abilities to work at their own pace and have their curricula adapt to their particular needs and interests. This allows the gifted student to move through material faster than would have been allowed in conventional classrooms. It is friendly to students' physical needs. Montessori appeals to lots of parents and teachers because of the heavy use of tactile physical interaction. Not only is this approach beneficial for children generally, but some learners may prove more gifted when employing this particular learning style. Spatial and tactile intelligence are often downplayed in the traditional classroom, but these virtues are celebrated in Montessori schools. It is highly adaptable. Because of the relatively hands-off approach of the Montessori teacher, students can choose from the teacher's list of options. And they can pursue that study interest for long blocks of time or short blocks if they so desire. It fosters art and creativity, since this method facilitates decision-making, emphasizes physical tactile interaction and is very adaptable in length. Young artists may find Montessori classrooms the ideal context in which to develop their masterpieces. Creativity and ingenuity are assets here. It fits small class size. Even Montessori schoolhouses, conventional school, prize small class sizes, so they are naturally suited to homeschool applications where parent-teachers are expected to work with only a few students at a time, and to engage generously in one-on-one instruction time with each child. Although Montessori is well suited for many students, but it has a few drawbacks. It requires teaching certification. One of the most obvious drawbacks is that Montessori is an official teaching method complete with training classes and certification. Technically, before you can call your homeschool a Montessori school, you would need to get certified as a Montessori instructor. That said, this problem is relatively easy to solve. Parent-teachers can just ditch the official Montessori label and still use Montessori principles. It's probably still best, however, to pursue Montessori certification to make sure you are doing it right. It normally is a schoolhouse model. The Montessori method, so far, is not common among homeschools but is primarily a private school and sometimes public school option. In other words, it's still largely a schoolhouse option, rather than a homeschool one. This fact wouldn't be a problem except that it translates into limited options for resources and networking. Not suited well for middle school and high school, this method seems to work best for younger learners and is not generally used beyond elementary school. It is an unstructured approach. This open-ended methodology can feel unstructured, non-rigorous, and unstimulating to some students who crave external challenges, competition, rules, and imposed order. It is modeled on a humanistic view. This method is modeled on a humanistic view of children. If that's not your view, or that approach doesn't suit your student, then this model might not work for you nor do we recommend it. Montessori education might be right for you if you see students as blank slates and you don't want to see them fitted into cookie-cutter molds favored by some traditional school. You are willing to get certified in Montessori method or utilize Montessori-certified teachers to train you or to share your homeschooling duties. You have a student with moderate to serious learning differences, whether gifted and talented or learning handicap. You trust your student, generally, to direct his or her learning, provided there's a little structure and a lot of freedom. You want your student to have immersive, physical, and tactile learning opportunities. I hope discussing this homeschooling method was beneficial. As I mentioned before, some of the methods are set up for the Christian curriculum, and others are less so. The curriculum available will be discussed in other upcoming videos. Be sure to watch our other videos on homeschooling methods. There are a total of 7 methods used in homeschooling. They are classical, Charlotte Mason, Montessori, unschooling, school at home, unit studies, and eclectic education. Nehemiah Reset has produced a video on each of these methods. You should be able to find them on nehemiahreset.org, our website, and on our Rumble and YouTube accounts. We look forward to seeing you again on one of these videos or on videos on other cultural issues. Thanks for watching.